Somebody's dropped away from us there, McBride. So, hello guys, we are here for the latest episode of the Sorare CSC Celtic Supporters Club. Live and loud, I say live and loud, but I don't feel too loud right now. On a Tuesday, we're in the aftermath of Postecoglou has been wrapped up, sealed, confirmed. The new Tottenham manager, it's all official. No one needs to dance around it anymore. And yeah, I'm joined as usual by McBride, by Etienne, by Mark Patrick Rare. And we're going to be basically here to pick up the pieces and see what we've got left of the squad, what we expect to be incomings and outgoings, manager appointments, and everything else in between. Last time we were on live, me and McBride were here for Trophy Day. McBride won basically the biggest division in the world of global fantasy football. Huge weekend with a full Celtic team. And to celebrate, McBride is doing a bit of a giveaway. We've got 8 Sorare cards to give away today. And because we're all a little bit bummed out and all the rest of it, we're kind of undecided on the format. But basically, anyone in the live chat, depending on how many of them we get, maybe the comments after we've been live, can throw us anything out and cheer us up. Maybe with a good shout, something that makes us laugh, smile, or whatever. We'll throw it on screen. We'll obviously give you a shout out and we'll get cards sent out to you as well. So when you're here live, obviously get your fist bumps on arrival, get involved in the live chat. And yeah, that's everything all said and done. We're all here, guys. Like, subscribe, share, and retweet, and all that good stuff. And yeah, I don't know who wants to pick up the baton first, but guys, how did I find you in the aftermath?
I mean, it's a bit of a mess. You know, I think we had that you know, the speech from Ange where it was galvanizing the fans. That's kind of stuck in my head, that line, "Champions again, because I'm a lucky guy." That line, that kind of smarminess, knowing that you're going to, you know, leave in the following, because he's obviously known at that point that it was very close. Comments, yeah, it's difficult to not be a little bit annoyed about it. I know a lot of people in Celtic media circles have been trying to throw this really kind of, you know, we're fully behind him and he's, you know, all been all appreciative and all that, but not me. I think we were touching on the fact that it kind of feels like a half-done job. You know, it feels like this season, I mean, he done nothing in Europe. I mean, really, we were pretty much embarrassed. You know, this season felt like the season to actually, you know, stake a claim in Celtic's history, and, you know, he didn't do that. So, yeah, I feel a little bit sour about it, personally.
Yeah, I would echo what Mark said. It is quite sour, actually. He's just said a lot of stuff that I just would rather he didn't say. Celtic are obviously a giant club, crazy history. And the fans are genuinely part of a community and like a family. And these guys say things that just gets us believing that we might have another Jock Stein, we might have another one of these guys coming in and being there for a long time and creating another seriously competitive European team. And he's left in under, 2 years? It's just like, why do you have to say all that stuff, man? You got us all dreaming. And now, yeah. And also the fact that our board, I don't really have I think they kind of got a bit lucky with Postecoglou the first time. So I don't think they're actually that smart to go and get someone else that fits. And so I think we're quite vulnerable right now. I really think we're vulnerable. And yeah, you'll be surprised how long I'm on this podcast.
You try to get yourself a card, Sean.
I'll take it right now.
I've heard a lot of people raise like the Tommy Burns quotes and like you say as well there, Sean, you know, and Mark as well, about all the talking kind of really since the league was wrapped up, especially now because it does feel like it was kind of in the offing for a while. But I think he's maybe just been a bit misguided with maybe a little bit of his, I don't know, maybe he thinks he's going out there acting like he's doing a victory lap as one of the fans, and he thinks that maybe it would have went a bit differently than what it has. Maybe some of the stuff he thinks, I don't know, maybe he thinks that, that'll carry me good favour, that will pass on the sentiment that this is a difficult thing for me to do, and I do get it, or whatever. So, I don't know, that's just the first thing that's that's still kind of rattling around my mind from all. But I do think that he should have just, at least been a bit more transparent with it. If he did know it was kind of in the offing, he could have definitely, especially after the League Cup was tied up, because then it's, because it was like 24, 40 hours later, it goes from rumour to news, over that time. And, like he's talking about enjoying the moment, and I'm going to go and enjoy it with my family.
Yeah, he must have really enjoyed that last couple of days, agreeing terms and stuff. It's just, it doesn't really align, does it? But
do you know the point that
Sean
was saying is probably the most depressing thing about this, is that you see now we've got obviously Lawwell heavily featuring back in the Celtic, boardroom and whatever, and Desmond is still a massive part of that club, obviously majority shareholder. And as Sean said, you don't have really any confidence that they're going to make good decisions with the next manager. I think they did just get lucky. They just went, called up Lawwell's son and said, do you know anybody in the City group? Oh, I've got a guy. All the guys that were linked with just now, apart from the Bodo Glimt manager, which again just seems like obvious scouting, are all out of a job. So like it just seems like easy, convenient options. But that aside, apart from just the general mismanagement of the board, which is, we spoke about this very briefly before, that the real red flag should have been when fences were getting put up at the stadium. The fans should have really just went, no, that's not happening. Enough is enough. Get us changes in that boardroom. Of course, Lawwell out it was like a Tory move, wasn't it? Where they get them out the back door for a certain amount of time and then they just sneak them back in. But my biggest concern, aside from that, is the players. Like, you would surely expect that he will now just start picking off those, the Japanese players for absolute certain. I would be stunned if Hitati and Kyogo stayed. And you've got to think who else would go, because that culture that he had created with those Japanese players, and obviously as well, coming from that area. There's a fair chance we could be going to do that Far East tour with no players from the Far East anymore.
That's that up in smoke.
He's not taking the job in Tottenham until the 1st of July, so maybe he'll give us a bit of grace. But that was the flattest I've felt after winning the treble. So I was away for the weekend and I was watching in a pub and stuff. It was great. And then as soon as I seen him at the end, as soon as I seen his face, I just looked at him and said, he's away. You could just see it in his face. He looked kind of nervous. It didn't look as if he was having any joy. It was like he looks as if he's away type thing. He's not a guy who's going to come out here and say, no, I've decided to stay. And obviously, he talks about like something to do with the recruitment process and all that sort of stuff. And I know agents work on things, but if he's going through a process with Spurs, he must have still been doing that whilst he was the manager. So the thing I laughed at is yesterday, there was all these days of rumours and says Celtic give Postecoglou permission to speak to Spurs. So what fucking use is that now? I was speaking to him for weeks, like permission to speak. Like I don't get that, because obviously he has been doing stuff. But I don't think we should lose sight of how well it's gone. Like when he came in, it was a riot. He lost his first 3 games. The squad was pretty terrible. He's improved the recruitment. He's got us in the Champions League twice. We've got money in the bank. We've got sellable assets in terms of players. So I think it's quite a good job for somebody to come into rather than taking over something that's a bit of a mess. But it's still a huge job, and the recruitment is crucial. We need to get the right guy in, because he's going to be a hard act to follow, and also you might lose a couple of key players, and you've got to replace them, and give the new manager money and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I'm pretty flat about it. If anybody wants an Ange Postecoglou coaster, it's getting shipped out soon. So if you want it, you're happy to come and collect it. Otherwise, it's going to be in a skip soon.
Yeah, I would actually probably just go extreme, sell all the players, basically. Just get as much money as possible for that whole group, and just build another team with that money. Because realistically, the incremental Champions League team journey that Postecoglou was going on about, another thing he should have just stopped talking about, because if you're going to be here for 2 years, then you can never achieve that objective. So why you had to say that, I don't know. And he's not even said it at a club like an Ajax or a club like the Red Bull clubs where the manager leaves and there's just another one right in. And the manager, the head coach isn't that important to the entire structure. At Celtic, Postecoglou's got much more importance and gravitas for the actual vision of how the club plays football and where the club's going. And so for us to lose him, we've lost that whole vision's gone. It's disappeared. Spurs have got it now. So what are we going to do with all the players? I would suggest just try and sell them all at close to peak value as you can, because you would assume Hatate and Kyogo and all that is close to their highest valuation that we're going to get them at ever. And yeah, just get them out, sell them, and let the new guy have a good chunk of money to go and get something decent, something new. If it is a Marsh or something, we'd need to change the whole midfield. We couldn't have those guys in a Marsh team. I'd love to see Kyogo and Dyson and all those heavy pressing guys play one more time, but for who? I mean, they're just... She might as well just start again, go with a new manager, new philosophy, and just try and put all the resources into perfecting that rather than try to carry anything on. Because I think, sadly, it is, in the words of Ian Bunny Bunting from Extras, gone.
I think that there's guys that are, you know, that we've got there that could probably generically fit into most systems. I think specifically the Japanese players, you know, I think they'll not struggle to adapt to a new system, but I think en masse they will. I think players like Carter Vickers are absolute certainties to stay anyway. You know, I think probably the mass majority of the defensive players probably will stay. I wouldn't expect much change in that area. You can see Alistair Johnson's pretty much in love with the club now. So I think it would be in the kind of more attacking areas to be concerned about. I wouldn't imagine Jota would be going anywhere anytime soon. I think it probably is the Japanese players that would be, and it would be Kyogo and Hatate. Had Ange stayed, I would have fancied Kyogo to stay, but I think, like we said in the show before, Hatate was always one that we expected to leave in the summer anyway. I don't think that was ever a big shock if, you know, for the potential of him leaving, but I think he'll go for big money. All the rumours are that Kyogo's going to go to Spurs anyway now. Like Sean says, I agree with Sean. I love Kyogo. I think it's probably a great sellable asset to cash in on now. So yeah, I think we should be looking to, you know, offload some of the dead wood in there, the likes of your Turnbulls and God forbid Haksabanovic.
I think
He'll stay, by the way. I'm tongue in cheek there.
Key player next season, probably.
I think he'll probably get decent airtime next year, but I think you probably question whether Moy would feature now. Obviously, he was a pet of Ange.
I think at the moment, like the most important part of all this is a big part of the hope that Ange gave us was that he was going to help force Celtic to come into this modern era of football, you know, of progressing players on and all the stuff that we've spoke about on the episodes we've done so far. And we're basically all kind of worried that without him there, the club are not going to pick up and keep moving in this direction. And there is the fear that we regress back and it's just a safe pick. Like this Knutson guy that everyone's talking about from Bodo, like, you know, I don't mind Ronnie Dial. I think he did the okay or whatever, but I think it is kind of the same move in terms of managerial appointments. You know, there's other managers out there that we could be a bit more ambitious for. And I think, you know, if you take out, let's say 4 or 5 guys, like leave the squad because they're Ange guys, I personally think it won't come for Kyogo first time, the same way that he didn't go for Maeda first time when he left Yokohama. I made the joke that by that logic, he should be getting Van Veen to replace Kane, but I do think he would take Maeda out at Celtic before Kyogo, because he knows how much we love Kyogo, particularly compared to Dyson, and Dyson is like his son by all accounts at this point. So let's say you take out 4 or 5 of the guys that Ange shed, if you like. The amount of money we get for them, the amount of money we've got in the bank, automatic Champions League qualifiers, as well as the squad that remains. Like somebody's kind of touched on it loosely already, but we are in a great position, to really kick on from here. If the club carry on in the sort of vein we have over the last 2 years, and that's the big if of it all, isn't it? What will the club actually do?
I don't want to be a pessimist or a contrarian, because I just get so much abuse on Twitter anytime I say anything about Celtic. But I'm genuinely worried, and a couple of the really smart followers of Celtic that are in football, that I have the privilege of actually speaking to, are a wee bit concerned about just where this goes, because we really need to get this right. Because you can have all the money in the world, you have the resource advantage you want, but you need, your capital's precious. And a club like Bodo Glimt understand that. They've got a tiny wee stadium, but every single penny they make, they just put it into the right places. They just make the thing great. So having all this money in the Champions League and everything, it's alluring, it sounds great, but this can go south so quickly. And also, just the nature of football just doesn't allow you to be that much better than your domestic rival, who I don't think are a particularly good team. There isn't that much in it in terms of pure just like expected points, because the rest of the league's so bad. So we need to be careful here. This could go, and from a Sorare perspective as well, me and Mark were discussing that. This is what this show's about. It's about Sorare. From a Sorare perspective, like, I don't know if we'll see a return to that 2-3-5 thing with all the players just camped in the final third, making all the passes. I mean, that was just a cheat code. So even from a Sorare perspective, like, if we got a Jesse Marsh would have to change his entire philosophy about possession and be less extreme with transition. Is that going to be good for your Sorare Celtic players if they're just not going to bother having the ball as much and, play a more Red Bull Salzburg? And that's the one thing I like about Marsh, by the way, is that at Salzburg, I really liked that Salzburg team he had domestically, was very good. It gives me a bit of faith that he's had the experience of having an overpowered team before domestically, and he was really exciting, and he only signed guys from like 18 to 22, and it was all. So I actually quite like the idea of Marsh in a way, but this is dangerous, this is risky. There is exploding risks all over the place at the moment.
Yeah, I think my big thing is actually that is, what has been missing at Celtic for some time is obviously progression in Europe, because it's all very well winning 1 billion trebles and smashing, Dundee United 9-0 and all that stuff. But to see some level of progression in Europe is surely what we're all about. And my concern now is we do all the, wholesale changes in the window, turn up to the first Champions League game and just get embarrassed. That would be my concern. Like that we just are back. I mean, we were already poor in Europe under Ange. So wholesale changes, new manager, new philosophy, new system, first Champions League game. Yeah, that would worry me. That definitely would worry me.
Yeah. Ange's record in Europe was pretty poor. I mean, obviously we talked about Knutsen, but we get hammered by Bodo Glimt, didn't we? I mean, so
get hammered, but Hearts could never compete or do anything serious apparently, because they've got no money and they've got no resources to do it. And yet Bodo Glimt played us off the park. We've a giant compared to them. I just think ultimately that Celtic, it's a weird thing where Celtic are the giant and domestically, and then when we go into Europe, we need to have the mentality of Bodo Glimt going, how do we take advantage of the sloppiness that clubs that are paying 250 grand a week to players, their eyes are going to be elsewhere. They're going to be places we can embrace maybe an innovative technology, or I don't know, like cognitive brain training for players to make better decisions. I don't know what it is. We've got to think like a minnow in Europe and think, right, we're not going to be able to have any financial advantage here, so we've got to be smarter. And being smarter means smarter people in the club, people from all different walks of life. Stop with this Lowell and Desmond and their sons, and that's it. Those are the only people making decisions. I'm sorry, that's just an embarrassing situation for a club the size of Celtic. We need proper, high-level IQ problem solvers at Celtic, and so does the rest of Scottish football, including teams like Hearts, who have got 15,000 season tickets and act like, oh, we can't do anything. But your European counterparts would love to have that support in the capital city of Scotland. You know, so I'm just sick of the excuses with Scottish football and Celtic in Europe as well. We should be a serious European team, and we can be, but I'm just concerned that those guys in the boardroom are just not really up to it, and they're not going to allow people to come into the club that have the expertise that they don't. That, you know, these guys are just egomaniacs. So
I think that's the thing, Sean. See, on that point, right? Like, we're one of the biggest clubs in the world, and that's just the bottom line, right? We've got something like in terms of match day income, we're in the top 10 in the world. We are a monster of a football club. And that's just where the truth lies. I know a lot of clubs down south don't like that and try to make excuses for how, you know, we're not, but we just are. When it comes to European teams in Europe in general, we place ourselves so high down the list of, you know, we act like minnows, but not in the sense that Sean's saying. But I mean, we're comfortable with getting beat. We don't seem to be making too much of a protest about it. You know, like getting knocked out routinely in Europe off of poor teams. We should be saying, right, what's wrong here? We've got a board that seems to just be tolerating this. I mean, I won't go into the 10 in a row stuff where that was like an embarrassment from Lawwell and Lennon and Desmond, but, you know, there's nothing there that gives me confidence that they're not going to do that again, because the key part of Celtic Football Club in the PLC is to make sure that those shareholders are in profit and their dividends are paid out comfortably. And then there's also the additional revenue shareholders like Peter Lawwell himself, who are making a ton of money out of Celtic. And, you know, that part is the bit that worries me, where there's no ambition long term. The club should be looking at renovating the stadium, maybe adding additional. I mean, that's it. We're a club that could easily get 70,000 comfortably in that stadium. I mean, you see what happens with Ange. You bring in a manager that's, you know, invigorating and giving imagination to the fans and hope and passion, and the fans are desperate and feeling buzzing about going. You know, if the product's there, the fans will be enthusing about it. But I think, as Sean mentioned as well, there's just a general lack of imagination and ambition in Scottish football. I mean, they poo-pooed the idea of the B teams, and we're still comfortable. We've got a solid base of about 15, 16 really good clubs, but our Premier League's 12, and then the rest of the leagues are just kind of naff. We should just be having two leagues, you know, of 20 or whatever, straight promotion, whatever. Allow clubs to develop and have a deep breath, not relegating the only good teams we've got, preventing any, you know, youth from developing. I would also just force clubs to have better quality stadia. I mean, look at the state of some of the stadiums that are in that top flight.
I know.
I mean,
it's a
Dundee's
national
stadium,
obsession, and it's just
it's embarrassing.
That St Johnstone Stadium is disgraceful. And the problem with Scottish football in general, I know this is supposed to be Sorare Celtic Football Club, but the problem is we cannot get any congruity on basic topics and situations that everyone would benefit from. It's like somebody makes a good suggestion and it's just no, because we don't like that club, or we don't like that club earns more money in their agenda. It's like there is no and there's too many governing bodies as well. We've got the SFA, SPFL. The SPFL is just a complete joke. It's a wee shell. I'm convinced the SPFL is actually just been set up to diminish Scottish football by accepting those terrible TV deals. I'm convinced that Neil Doncaster is a complete and utter plant for a grander idea to just keep suppressing Scottish football. Honestly, it's absurd. And just the problem is Aberdeen fans hate Hearts. Hearts hate Rangers. Rangers hate us. We hate Rangers. Dundee United hate Dundee, but Dundee hate Stenhousemuir. It's this absolute chaotic Tiger King war zone. And it's like there's nothing can be developed here. We're all obsessed with a game, but we can't agree on the basics of how we make this better. And if we make it better for Stenhousemuir, you make it better for Celtic. If you make it better for Aberdeen, you make it better for Cove Rangers. The whole system needs to be better and healthier. And I'll finish this off by saying, as much as Ange was a great manager for us, he barely played any Scottish players or any Scottish. He didn't bring anyone through the academy. And it's another thing. Celtic and Rangers have got all this resource advantage. Got the academies. Where's the youth players? They're all leaving. They're all getting. I mean, Celtic just love sending world-class left backs out the door at 16. Right, see you later, Hickey, Robertson, whatever. We need to get serious and start. I would love to see Celtic get a manager like that Knutson guy or Jesse Marsh, because Jesse Marsh would just focus on academy products and younger players, and just we could maybe see something really exciting, and it just would lift the whole of Scottish football, and maybe other clubs would see it and go, do you know what, we can do the same too. And I just love for Scottish football to be good. I really would. It's like the one thing I'd love to see is
Scottish football great again.
Yeah, exactly. Back to the 70s and 80s stuff when, Dundee United are smashing clubs, and I'd love to return to that, but it just seems to me like most boardrooms in Scotland are just packed with, they're just nepotism, and they're just old guys that are just wanting that sweet shareholder payout, and they're all Tories. And they just, no one comes to an agreement on it, and so we just end up. And Ange's probably, that's another thing. I mean, I've went on a rant here, but the last thing I will say is Ange's maybe looked at Celtic and thought, I can't be dealing with those guys anymore. They've given me what I've needed to get here, but it's time to go to a more serious club. But Wise picked Spurs, which is just like Celtic light.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like Celtic light.
I'm not sure that Daniel Levy's going to be much better.
No, he's like Peter. He's like a uber successful Peter Lawwell. So I don't even know, man. I don't know.
He's like a financial Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
I think with this comment I tried to bring up earlier with James Pritchard, are we overreacting? I think when we definitely take into the state of Scottish football into factoring into the next manager, I think we maybe are overreacting a little bit. But the main problem we do have is making that step forward, and the main worry we do have is that the club are going to fall into that lull of accepting mediocrity, accepting getting knocked out by Copenhagen and Bodo. And even when Rogers got knocked out off of Valencia have been shocking for years, and it's accepting just, we made it past Christmas that, 2 years in a row and get done out over two crap teams, it doesn't mean anything. Celtic is about pushing the club on. Like you said earlier, it is a club and a family and a community in that sense. And it's about harnessing a team of Celtic players playing football the Celtic way and pushing the road to Seville, the Lisbon Lions, and being indestructible at home. And that's what we're worried, that we were maybe on the cusp of getting a taste of that again, and it might just slip through our fingers now. Because Jesse Marsh, I know he's been brought up a few times. I honestly cannot say enough. I don't want him at all. Like, I like the style of football and the tactics and all the rest of it, but him, I can't go him, personally. So
he would turn us into a winning machine. By the way, he just would. He would just. They would, as Sean said, they would give up lots of possession, but it would be loads of goals. I don't think it would loads of goals. In my opinion, like from what I've seen of him at Leipzig in particular, as well as like the little glimpses at Leeds, but Leipzig in particular, is that our big problem. We're talking about Europe earlier, right? We had an XG of 10 in the group stages this year, only scored 4.
We were in the top 10 for chances created. We were in the top half of every attacking metric in the Champions League this season.
Yeah,
and
where
the main
did we
problem we
lose all the
had,
games?
but
What
our
phase
main
of
problem
play?
was we didn't. Well,
What phase of play did we lose the games in, Quinny?
Well, one of the main problems is not scoring enough goals, and Jesse Marsh will not fix that. From what I've seen,
what will he fix?
Well,
defensive transition. The problem Celtic have had for the last 15 years. How are we conceding 3 goals away and we were dominating the game? Because the defensive transition. It's always been Celtic's problem. We've had it for 15 years. We've never sorted it. In fairness to Lennon, that season we beat Barcelona, he kind of fixed it, but I don't know if he did it through like tactical nous or just like he just got Wanyama. We would be a little bit poorer domestically with Marsh, but in Europe, we would actually fix the one problem that kills us, which is we are hopeless in transition. And like one of the worst teams, like for the amount of money Celtic have got in their salary, just hopeless at that. Would to the point where you've got Leipzig and Real Madrid and stuff. They came to Celtic Park, let us do all of our big crazy. Celtic are we're looking really good here, and then just carved us apart. And that wasn't by any luck. They planned to play that way, and they knew eventually we'll catch them, and they did. And that's you play the inverted fullbacks to kind of stop that from being so dangerous, and it was working to an extent. But I think Marsh would fix that in Europe. I think we'd be a better team in Europe, but possibly not as exciting and entertaining domestically because, yeah, I think Ange is as good as it gets for domestic minnow smashing.
I just want to say something on this comment in here, and obviously you can pick up, Mark, sorry. But see, in terms of the Euro atmosphere, I think there's been a huge drop-off in like Champions League atmosphere from my whole lifetime ago. And I think it's a weird thing to quantify, right? But I just want to say this while it's out of my head. But we used to walk out, Celtic would walk out, the opposition would walk out, Champions League anthem would be playing, but you would never be able to hear it because we'd be singing Walk On all the way through it. And then over the last, 5 or 6 years, they play Walk On 5 minutes earlier now. And then when the Champions League anthem comes on, we're all expected to cheer like every other idiot in Europe does.
Have a word with pal Keir. I think he's
we need to get Champions. We need to get Walk On back on for covering Champions League anthem because I was just standing around. It's not the same, for me anyway. So anyway, I just wanted to say that while I was out there.
But we were going to win those games, man. That's the thing.
But we didn't sing the songs in the right order. That's what happened.
Do you know the worst thing?
Have it.
Fine. We'll make that change, Quinny. That's a real quiz. That's a real change we need to make to get back on top.
Never mind the manager.
I think Celtic have stopped it now. Remember, it was all in the Martin O'Neill area. We always did this. At the start of the second half, we'd always be singing Walk On, and it would bleed into the game. And my dad always used to say, we need to stop doing this because if Rangers, for example, score as we're singing Walk On, it's just you're just inviting a horrible moment. I never forget it was Celtic Rangers. Honestly, it was like it was happening. I was a wee kid and my dad just went, they're going to score. And Fernando Rickson scored a diving header during Walk On. I was like, why are we even giving that moment an opportunity to happen? It was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So yeah, I think some of the songs could be changed a bit, I think, Quinny. But I think we should get a serious manager. I like that Bodo Glimt guy for sure. Like Bodo Glimt guy makes a lot of sense actually. He makes a lot of sense for us domestically and in Europe. I think he's the best fit, but I think he's going to Ajax.
I was listening to other people earlier on, by the way, and his European record, if you go and check it out, it's just that Conference League run, that one thing. That's all he's done in 5 years at Bodo or 4 years at Bodo, whatever.
We are revenue about a total revenue about 50 million euros.
He just smashed Goliath in the face with a bloody axe. I think the thing is that we get so complacent. I remember. I seen one of the comments coming in there and it was talking about the atmosphere, games and stuff. But I think in general we get complacent. I remember we going to games under Strachan and I thought, wow, this is brilliant. we're actually a team. I remember there was one of the games, was it the one we played Spartak Moscow and we beat them in penalties, and I was just behind the goal. I don't know if I was with you that one, Sean. Anyway, the atmosphere was incredible. Spartak were a right good team, and it just felt like we could beat any of those teams at that point. Whereas, and by the way, remember when we got to the quarterfinals under Strachan, and we get cheated in the San Siro by Milan when there was the 2 handballs, which
two
suddenly
clear handball penalties. There was 3 penalties in that match, 2 clear handballs, yeah.
And but Strachan never got the credit he was due. He would kind of dismissive a bit. I don't know if it's quite a weird one actually. Fans never ever really gave him the credit, but I felt like under Brendan domestically, we were. I mean, at times we looked like we could win every game 4-5-6-0. But in Europe again, poor. I think that like these kind of like the Knutson and Marsh. I think Marsh would overpower the Scottish League. It probably would be I think it's going to be difficult for us this season, much tighter than it was last season, because Rangers are going to spend a ton of money. Where is the money coming from? Just wait and see. They are going to borrow money, and but they've not got a bank facility. Wait and see. There'll be loans. There'll be. Do you think the EBTs was an above the board scheme that they done? They are going to borrow money all sorts of places. There'll be transfers coming in, and we'll need to be up for it. And I think that a guy like Marsh, in my opinion, I know he's an unpopular choice between fans, but I just want to do well in Europe. I'm sick of pumping teams in Scotland and then going and being a laughingstock in Europe, and then going, and all the media down south are just going, good effort, and laughing, sniggering, and we just seem to be okay with that. I'm not okay with that. I want Celtic to get their rightful place back in Europe and start to win. I don't care. I mean, genuinely, I'd rather the fans were unhappy about Marsh's system and we were smashing teams the way that Red Bull Salzburg smashed us under Marsh. Like that's what I would rather.
Marco Rose Salzburg. That was a joy to behold. That game.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah.
It was Marco Rose. I know we didn't. I don't think maybe we played. We played when he was the assistant, I think, for Rangnick, I think. Well, I might be wrong, but they just come every couple of years, don't they, Salzburg and Leipzig?
Well, like you said, but they're a system that are just plugging in another, head coach of the season kind of vibe,
Yep.
And it's all well. I think we've got that base where somebody like him, quite a lot of different guys could come in and pick up this mantle and get things going. We've seen Maresca today get linked with the job quite heavily. He's now bookie favourites. Last time I've seen something get posted anyway. Rogers seems to have distanced himself from it. Obviously, we've got Knutson, who's been mentioned a few times, but otherwise, and Jesse Marsh, obviously, which we're talking about just now. And then otherwise, there's just other names people are throwing in there as we would like to have them mentioned in the conversation, but as of yet, haven't been done. I would like to go through all 3 of these. Farioli, I'd like to go through all 3 of these, but with the theme that we've just been kind of laying out there for the last 10 minutes, like getting Celtic back into that kind of vibe that we all grew up with them, Matt. If you had to pick one from the available, let's say 8 or 10 names that you've maybe came across, who would you be picking today? McBride.
I liked the guy, Knutson. I thought that was quite good. I mean, you look at Ange came in and he decided he would go into that market in Japan and he would sign players there, would get guys for $1.5 million, be worth 6, 7 or 8 million and things. We've got to be realistic at Celtic as well. We're not in a position where we can go and sign guys from England or whatever. They're always on big wages, even if you think you could get them to us. And we're not in a position, they're not like a Portuguese club where they can go and they can get guys from Brazil because they can come into Portuguese passports and all that sort of stuff. So we're kind of a wee bit limited in terms of what we can do. We've got the money and stuff, and we said earlier it's got to be spent well. And if you did get somebody like Knutson, then you could see him bringing in guys from Bodo like Vetlesen and the guys at Bjork or whoever the guy went to Germany and he's playing left back. There's lots of good players in Scandinavia, so I really wouldn't mind that as long as we get somebody in and we've got this sort of theory of what's the plan here? Is the plan just we're going to sign a couple of random players, or is the plan we're going to sign guys at 22, 23, 24, spend 5 or 6 million on them, knowing that a couple of these guys are going to go for 20 or 30 million, and it's going to be more self-sufficient? That's I think what we've got to do. We're going to lose players on a regular basis, so we can't be spending 8 million on a guy that we're going to lose in a free transfer who's 29. We've got a small budget. I think last year the turnover was like 135 million. So Champions League is like 35% of the whole turnover of the club. So it's a kind of, you wonder whether it's a small-minded attitude saying we've achieved something by being in the Champions League, but it's a really huge part of the income and the money because the TV deals and the commercial side are just so bad. So I think we've just got to focus on like stabilising things and keeping winning. If that means that it's like a Gordon Strachan Champions League night where everybody's booing because you're too negative, and then the next minute you're beating Milan, who are defending European champions, that's better than getting humped all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that type of route.
Yeah, I mean, I think like there is a kind of small-minded mentality in general, and I think it's kind of getting a bit tiring because, you know, we're sitting with, you know, one of the biggest supported clubs in the world, you know, with huge potential and huge merchandise potential, huge global potential, but we're not getting to that because like as you mentioned, the TV deals, the commercial deals that are done, no one ever scrutinizes them. Like they're the deals. Some of the deals that Lawwell's done are just absolutely underwhelming, but they're presented in the press because obviously, in the same way that David Murray did when he was chairman at Rangers, had all those relationships with the media where he controlled the output of what was presented. So go and tell them that this is the greatest, most astounding deal that's been done commercially in Scottish football history. Yeah, great. See you on Saturday then. Here, too much of that. Like, some of these need to really be scrutinised because, like, they were going on and on and on about that New Balance deal and then the deal with Adidas. And we actually look at it in the scale of other clubs, they're like, that's embarrassing. Like, that should have been handled so much better. The Scottish TV deal is... I can't believe that guy's still in a job, that Doncaster guy. I really can't. My big gripe about him is who does he have to, who basically judges him? Because those deals are horrific. I mean, the Romanian leagues are getting better deals than that. I mean, it's an absolute embarrassment.
Yeah.
But in terms of manager, I'll take your question. Out of the names mentioned, I would say Jesse Marsh. Just to shake it up a bit, I would just like to do better in Europe. I just tired of losing in Europe. And this is probably really, going against the grain of the support. I would rather be getting into the last fours in finals and stuff like that. I would forfeit the odd title for that to get to being that respected and consistent in Europe.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll do that too.
Yeah, probably Marsh is the one that I would like to see us get for the European stuff that Mark was talking about. But I don't know. I don't know. Actually, it just depends what you do with Marsh. I mean, if you bring him in, you need to go a certain way. If you bring in a certain manager, you've got to really go down that path with him, a bit like they did with Postecoglou. And even then, I mean, again, Sorare perspective, a lot of the guys scored really, really, really well within Postecoglou's system domestically. But I wouldn't say Starfelt is a suitable player for Postecoglou's style at all. So I don't think there was perfect recruitment done with Postecoglou, and he does seem quite data illiterate with some of the signings he made that clearly couldn't actually play very well in in that system. So I don't know. If it's Marsh, there needs to be a whole movement behind them, because things can turn sour with a character like that very, very quickly, I think, because, sentiment will be negative just because he's American to begin with, and people just don't take Americans seriously in football. So an American in Glasgow, he's got to hit the ground running, he's got to be backed, and we've got to get those younger players that can play that extreme style. I'd love to see like a Bielsa or something like that, but he's not in the picture, is he? He's the coach of Uruguay now, so that's unfortunate. He's a bit of a genius. But probably Marsh right now is the one that makes the most sense, because I think Knutsen's going to go to Ajax.
And Mark, I'd love to say, Mark Jennings, I'd love you for the contribution, mate. But honestly, this is we are not a small fish in any terms other than balance sheets and revenue, and that's that metric holds us back against the Premier League. But other teams have to face this as well in other places, and we have to look at like the business we've done over the last couple of years, how shrewd we've been with. And I know we've been shrewd because we're going into other corners of the world to find these players, but there's players you can find at that potential level, at that price bracket, at that age range, closer afield, that the club could be better at recruiting in general. And I think once we've kind of compounded that on enough seasons, like doing this stuff in Europe and doing it in the league is much more achievable. But right now, like if we want to keep attracting high quality managers, high quality prospects, there needs to be something that they get out of it, that elite experience at the top level, because the experience of Scotland is not worth the trip.
Yeah, and someone made a comment, how can you prefer Marsh over Potter? Potter was superb at Brighton. And lots of comments like that. It's not really the topic that's up for discussion, because Graham Potter, as we've seen at a club with a American owner that was cosplaying as a director of football, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter if you're a great head coach or a great manager. If the person above you is grossly incompetent, you will suffer. And Graham Potter went from a super smart club like Brighton to a super dumb club like Chelsea. And so this idea of Marsh is better than Potter, Potter's better than Marsh, depends where they go. If Marsh went to a really stupid club, then of course I'd be like, that's not great. But if you would have faith that... I don't have faith that Potter is as good a... I think Jesse Marsh's a really impressive guy, actually. And I've watched all his webinars and stuff like that. I actually think he's a really impressive football theorist, more so than Graham Potter. And I think Graham Potter would need to come into a much smarter club than Celtic, because I don't think Potter... I think Potter was excellent within that Brighton structure, but you can actually say the same for Marsh. Actually, out with the time at Salzburg.
I would push Potter further, but in saying going into Sweden Division 5 and taking them to
did all
Arsenal
that
the Europa League
is
pretty solid.
I hold my hands up. Actually, I've spoken nonsense there. Potter did do all that stuff with Sweden, didn't he? Which was pretty. Yeah, but we had Ronnie Dyer. We had a Ronnie Dyer that was. Did miracles with Strom Godset, and he was, gave up on him. And so
I don't mind a Ronnie, but I think he falls into the category maybe more of the Maresca, like another CFG kind of prototype guy. And I know Strom's gonna say it wasn't strictly CFG, but they took a lot of loans, and Dyler brought those connections obviously to here, as we've seen with the loan market we exploited there. Enzo Maresca, if he comes in, that feels unambitious to me. It feels like another CFG easy pickup. And I know Postecoglou might have been that, and maybe we're on for a good thing if he was appointed. But Enzo Maresca, when you see that, the Man City assistant, former under-23 manager, what do you think of it?
Yeah.
Anything?
Just for continuity, yeah. But I mean, bit uninspiring. I think we this is devastating. A guy who we thought was the absolute second coming of a Jock Stein type figure, who was going to be this guy who delivers us from evil and gets us serious in Europe, has just left us. And he didn't really say anything that was making us feel like he was going to do that. So we're going to need a good pick-me-up. We need something to get us back going, because I don't think Maresca's. He could work out because he knows all that how to play that system and everything. But I don't know. I think we should do something different.
Yeah, decent shout here from Zorowar. Sorry, Thiago Motta over at, I want to say, Bologna, or where is Motta these days?
Yeah,
Somewhere in Serie A anyway. Is it Bologna?
I'm pretty sure it's Bologna.
Last time he was at Celtic Park, sent off. Remember the famous sending off?
Rob Douglas.
Yeah,
of course. So lots of different names getting linked to it, and I think like we've kind of touched on it already, but it genuinely is. Then there's never been a better time for Celtic to be looking for a manager. I think there's enough like kind of candidates out there. We've kind of spoke about some of the main ones, but even some of the ones that haven't been seriously linked to the job but are available. Like I've seen a lot of Sorare circles, but a lot of people are throwing out Marcelo Gallardo.
River Plate. Yep, I like that.
Like, thinking about the Champions League and the squad we've got, guy won Libertadores, guys won Sudamericana. Like he knows knockout competition at that continental level. So yeah, he's somebody who I would definitely kind of want to see, but nothing official seems to be coming that's making that sound. It's just wishful thinking, I think, from some of us.
Maybe just too big a kind of culture difference. It's just too big a risk, isn't it?
Perhaps,
yeah. Yeah, and he doesn't really play anything like how we currently play. He was great on Sorare, that River Plate time when he was the manager. They were great for a while. They really were. They had Enzo Fernandez and Julian Alvarez, and oh my god, that was mad, that period. I wish we could go back to that because we didn't. I don't think we realised what we were witnessing with that Julian Alvarez, Enzo Fernandez River Plate thing because they both just left so quickly.
Somebody said, let's be real, he'd never go to bigger people have came to Glasgow than Gallardo.
Yeah. Elvis touchdown in Presto Airport.
So did Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. JFK came to Glasgow Central.
Iraola has been linked to the job as well. Earlier today, the report was that he's thrown his hat in the ring. I've watched a lot of La Liga this year. Vallecano have been pretty good, but like I said to you earlier, McBride, like if you watch Vallecano, like everything goes through this guy, EC Palazon. He's quite a playmaker, does everything for him.
He's good.
And outside of him, I don't really see why Iraola, like a lot of Spanish football fans are raving about him. I don't get it. I don't really see what Vallecano are doing, but he is very highly rated. He knocked back Premier League jobs in the winter. He's finished the season with Vallecano, and he's put his hat in the ring.
Third lowest PPDA, which is passes per defensive action. So that means that they press very, very much. Rayo Vallecano, the third biggest pressers in the La Liga.
I can believe that.
Yeah, somebody like that I think would be quite interesting. Definitely. But I mean, let's face it, if you go through the list, a lot of the stuff is just stuff been thrown out. Like the Sun was talking, so it's I don't follow the Sun or buy it unless it was in the past for page 3. But
wow.
It comes up on Twitter.
Dirty man.
It comes up on Twitter still, right? And it's like Brendan Rodgers in the frame for a Celtic job. And then you scroll down a wee bit, and 2 hours later, Brendan Rodgers rules himself out. And let's face it, the bookies' odds and everything, the stuff we're looking at, that's definitely not going to be the short list that somebody's sitting with at Parkhead.
No.
We don't really know. We're all just talking about it and guessing and saying who we would like, but I had never heard of Ange Postecoglou. I looked him up and I thought, that looks pretty good, but I'd never heard of him before he came to Celtic. So we just need to get somebody who is impressive. And likewise, I've mentioned this earlier, I think we've been a wee bit unlucky with Ange as well, and I'm not trying to defend him, but Tottenham, I think, had bigger aspirations than Postecoglou as well. And I think those guys linked like Slot, who appeared to say didn't want to go, or maybe they want Nagelsmann, or the Spurs fans would want a big appointment. And he wasn't really high in the list in terms of actually being appointed. And then obviously once they've asked him, they've been impressed with him or whatever, which is fair enough. But Ange could well have still been here if that Tottenham thing hadn't happened, because somebody else could have taken that job and then that was it. It was game bogey type thing.
I think the circumstances definitely changed significantly. I don't think he probably didn't think that was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, Daniel Levy's just had an absolute... He said, wait a minute, that guy, that Desmond and Lowell, they're a bit like me. And right, what I'll do is I'll just get the guy they've got and see if it can work out for me. in my terrible running of this club for the last 20 odd years or however long he's been there. Do you know what? I really want to get this out on the record. I genuinely, the bitter emotional fan in me wants that to go so badly wrong at Spurs. I want to see serious wrong stuff going on. Just because I'm bitter, I'm emotional. I love Celtic Football Club. I think Spurs are just such an underwhelming. They're like a myth. It's like, oh, Spurs were great. Yeah, when Danny Blanchflower was on the wing in the 50s. Come on. It's like this myth that they are this big, great attacking team. So part of me, the really bitter, nasty part, I want it to go bad. And I would be quite nasty and bitter and enjoy that going bad, because I think Celtic fans, we deserved. See if he just came right out after the game and says, look, I can't take this club any further. I just can't. And it's best that I leave it in a beautiful condition for someone to move in, come in and take it to the next level. I just can't do that. See if he said that, no one would have any issue. But he didn't. He just kind of left a wee bit too quick for me. And yeah, I don't know, I might smash into someone just to make me feel better. I'd like to see Spurs get smashed into somebody. Get smashed into by someone just to make me feel better.
Aye. The day Brendan Rodgers gets sacked, I was pissing myself laughing, I must admit. And like, it'll be one of these things where I don't really mind Spurs in general. I remember watching McCain and Son and everything, and I quite enjoy watching them in the Champions League thing where they overturned it against Ajax and all that. I didn't mind him at all. But when I'm watching him now, if he does well, I'll say, well, he's done well with us, and right, well, you know, he's not like left mid-season or anything, but I hope they get pumped. I really do. I really hope they get pumped. Like that's where I am now. I hope it goes terribly. But if it doesn't, then I can live with it. So
because we know he's a good manager and a great coach. He's a good guy. So, but still, I just want to see some pain after that. That was too much. He's inflicted too much pain on us. He made us believe he was different, and realpolitik is very much in charge of him as well, and that's just the way it is. But man, he just said too many beautiful romantic things. He had us dreaming, and now look where we are.
Yeah, he said we never stop, and he did stop.
Yeah,
never stop until
you offered more money. It's quite good as well. Like if you just you've got somebody there who just thinks, "Oh, I'm going to further my career. The grass is greener," all that type of stuff, and he's taking the chance. And if it doesn't work out, there'll be some satisfaction there in the Celtic fans just to say, "Well, yeah, you thought going to the EPL was bigger and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, you've not really done very well." Because has Rodgers been a fantastic success at Leicester? I think he won a trophy. He'd asked
fifth twice in a row. I think he went fifth, and then just ran out of steam. Because it's just so hard in that league. It's just there's always somebody cooking up something, like Brentford and Brighton. This season they've been the revelations. Like it's so hard to coming fifth twice from Leicester, back to back, nearly getting the Champions League twice in a row. That's a massive success. It's just not viewed like that.
Don't obviously get any trophies for that though, do you? I mean,
no, but
Harry Kane thing,
didn't he?
He's like Harry Kane going to retire and say, "Oh, I got the Premier League top goal scorer." Like, well, you've not won anything. You've won fuck all. They just start. Kyle Walker left Tottenham and he's won like 13 trophies since he left Tottenham. So just go and play for somebody who wins trophies.
Like Charles Barkley not having a ring in the NBA. It's quite sad, isn't it?
Yeah. Just go to Real Madrid, win a couple of Champions Leagues, win some La Liga, whatever, go down as somebody who's a bit of a winner. Just don't get down as somebody who's scored tons of goals and won absolutely nothing. Like, anyway, we were talking earlier about getting complacent with winning and stuff, but I think the first job we've got to fulfill now is to make sure we are still winning next season. And then if we do well in Europe, it's going to be a bonus now because we've lost the continuity of the manager, and then we can build for there. But the first thing we've got to do is make sure we don't lose the league next season. I think. So.
Yeah, but then this is just the never-ending cycle of focusing on the league.
Yeah.
And surely if you focus on being a real top side in Europe, the league will just happen.
Yeah. Well, every 2 years we've changed manager though, eh? So you see the sort of thing, and it's like Lennon won the league 2 years, Dylid won the league 2 years, Rodgers had won the league, left. Ange won the league 2 years. So what do we just accept that we're going to
maybe have to question the people that are in charge at Celtic and the vision they're selling people, because, well, with the exception of Lennon, they're clearly not selling a vision to these people, because if they did, there would be, and I get it, there's more money and all that, but really, I would suggest that one of the reasons Postecoglou left is the same reason Brendan Rodgers left, which I think he realised that the current structure at Celtic and the way it's operated is probably just trying to outrun the probability of, having a real bad season of recruitment with the style of recruitment that they have, which isn't very sophisticated. He maybe just thought, you know what, I could do damage to my brand if I stay another season in the Champions League and I don't, and I get hammered again. Because Rodgers obviously left because of that January transfer window where he asked for Castagne and Alvarez and all these guys, and he got Timothy Weah on loan, Oliver Burke, and he clearly was pissed off at that, as you would be. And maybe Ange just looked at the recruitment list, looked at all the people and thought, there's no more in that Japanese well. There's nothing left for me to get from that. He's looked elsewhere and just seen names like Haksabanovic style names that have been on our sheets for years and years and years, the old lists of players. And he's maybe just thought, I don't see any young superstars coming through the academy that I want to give a chance to, with the exception of Summers. And maybe he's just thought, you know what, let's just go to Spurs and see how that works out. So yeah, I'd say the people in charge need to sell a better vision. If we can only keep Rodgers and Postecoglou's for 2 years, something's wrong. We should be, especially when they're getting Champions League. But then that's only 6 games. And you're getting hammered by these teams, and it does serious damage. That PSG one that Rodgers had, I mean, that really damaged Rodgers' image. 5-0 and 7-1 or something. That's not good for an ego his size. So
yeah.
Anyway, I've got nothing left to say about Celtic, I'll be honest. Quinny, if you could relieve me of my duties, I would be happy.
Well, there's definitely going to be a lot more to kind of chew over in the pre-season. We're now going to be paying attention quite firmly, I think, to all the transfer dealings that will be coming in and out. But it doesn't feel like we'll be able to do anything properly until we get a bloody manager in who knows the shape that we're going to be putting the team in for.
Yeah.
McBride's a way to duck back and return.
You can't plan a Sorare thing here. You can't plan anything to do with Sorare right now in terms of
course.
Celtic. I don't.
Well, I was going to say, we're at the peak amount of viewers that we've been at for the stream and for the series. So thanks to everyone that has enjoyed this. Please do like the stream wherever you followed it. When we do end the live session, we'll do the giveaway on the YouTube comment section, okay? So include your Sorare manager name and your best takeaway from the video from the stream today. And we'll come back out and we'll pull names out at random and we'll reveal the winners on next week's video. Hope you have a great week in the meantime. I hope it's not too painful for you. So hopefully this helped turn a wee frown upside down. And McBride's back.
Yeah, so I just needed the toilet. Did I need to ask permission from my own house?
We're going to do the giveaway in the comment section after the stream's went live. So as soon as I hit this little button, the stream won't be live, and then we'll come into the comments and we're looking for the best takeaway from the video today, along with your manager name, and I'll jump in there and get the names to McBride, and we'll get the cards shipped out for you all. But it's been a great one, guys. Thanks a lot. Hail, hail.
Hail.
Can you do the manager?